Here we go. We are going to be solving some one-step division equation problems. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. The first equation I have m divided by 0.5 equals 6. Oh no, there's a decimal. No worries, guys. You got this. So I like to rewrite this as m over 0.5 equals 6. It's just my style. You don't have to do it that way. I enjoy doing it that way. It just makes more sense to my noggin. Okay, m divided by 0.5 equals 6. We want to undo what's being done to the variable. How do I undo division by 0.5? I multiply both sides by 0.5. So I do the same thing to both sides times by 0.5. Now, one thing I want to stop and note is often asking yourself a question like, what do I do to undo? Like I asked right there. So if you get in the habit of asking yourself those questions, you can often question yourself to tell yourself what to do rather than memorizing this math stuff as a process. It's very neat what happens when you learn to ask the right questions, how it leads you to answers. All right, back to the main story. So we multiply both sides by 0.5 using the multiplication property of equality. We see that 0.5 will divide nicely with 0.5. They undo each other. Division by 0.5 is undone by multiplication by 0.5, leaving us with our variable m. Now what's left on that right-hand side is 6 times 0.5. 6 times 0.5, you can do out the work either by hand or with a calculator. It is going to be 3. So a little bit of side work will reveal that. I'm not going to go over that extra step, as you can watch that in an earlier video to see how to do that math out. Okay, so our answer is 3, and sure enough, if we check our answer by plugging 3 in for m, we'll get 3 is divided by 0.5. And is it equal to 6? Well, either throwing that into the calculator or again using your division that you know how to do with decimals, you will see that 3 divided by 0.5 is indeed equal to 6. And it makes sense. If I divide $3 into 50 cents units, I'll get 6 50-cent units. Cool. All right, so the next problem, 22 is equal to x over 43. Well, some people don't like the way that's written, so you can always switch things up and write it as x over, so make that look a little bit more like an x, there we go, x over 43 is equal to 22. So switching the order of equations, as I'm switching how I'm writing on the board, does not change what we're doing. Now I want to undo division by 43. How do I undo division by 43? I multiply both sides by 43 times 43. Okay, so now that I've done that, multiplying by 43 undoes division by 43. They're literally actually dividing out to give me 1, and I'm left with x is equal to, now again, this is where a calculator might be handy, or you can go off and do it by hand. I'll go off and do it by hand over here. 43 times 22 is what we're doing. So if we take a look at that, do the law of multiplication, we'll get the result of this and plug it into our answer. So 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 4 is 8. I carry down a 0. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 4 is 8. Oh, interesting. And I add. So I get 6, 14, carry the 1, and then I get 9, or 946. And that, my friends, is your answer. You could check your answer by, again, evaluating 946 into the original equation. So we have 22. Is it equal to that thing that we call x divided by 43? That thing we call x is 946. And when you do out 946 divided by 43, you are going to get 22. So a couple of good problems showing you the process of how to solve one-step division equations using the property of multiplication. Now go rock some practice. You want another word problem? You got another word problem. Here it is. And even if you didn't want another one, well, again, here it is. So this word problem says, you and 3 friends go out to eat and split the bill equally. So to me, right away, before I do much of anything, I'm going to translate that first sentence. If I'm splitting the bill equally between myself and 3 other friends, I'm splitting it 4 ways. Splitting it equally 4 ways is the definition of division. So I'm going to just kind of start out with over 4, right? That's the division of the split equally 4 ways. Each of you pay $9.10. That's the result of having divided, right? If you divide a bill equally 4 ways, that then equals out to the amount each of you pays, right? So that'll be the $9.10. So the result of doing the division is $9.10. It finally asks, what was the total amount of the bill? Well, the total amount of the bill, which we don't know, so we'll need a variable for that, the unknown, is divided 4 ways. Oh, it's divided 4 ways. So the unknown amount is put right there. So we take the total bill, which we don't know, divide it 4 equal ways, and the end result is $9.10. The problem asks you to write an equation and solve. We've translated as we've gone down this word problem, word for word, and ended up with the equation we needed. Now, from here, what I would suggest is I would first define our variable. So we need to know what x means. So I would define x equals the total amount of the bill. So total amount of the bill. And in this way, you know what x stands for, right? So that's going to be in dollars. So now we've got an equation. All we have to do is solve it. To undo the division by 4 that is hanging out right here, we do the opposite operation, right? We multiply by 4. That will undo division. And whatever I do to one side of an equation, I must do to the other to keep the equation true. Now I'm going to do the operations. 4 times division by 4 ends up being 1. If I multiply by 4 and immediately divide by 4, I get 4 divided by 4, which is 1. That leaves us with x, our variable. Then I do 4 times $9.10. Well, that's going to end up being, with a little bit of mental math, or a little bit of a calculator, $36.40. So x is 36.4, so I'm going to put a dollar sign right here. Therefore, the total amount that the bill was $36.40. You can check the validity or the reasonableness of your answer by taking that amount and dividing it by the 4 equal parts and seeing if each person paid $9.10. And you know what? It works. Another word problem in the books, you're that much stronger. Now go practice some more word problems, remembering to first do the translations of the word problems. Just write out the equations for 4 or 5 word problems, and then go back and solve them to practice your equation chops. See you next time.